Hey, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Lyons. I'm here with Mr. Paul Lukach. He likes to be called Paul. He's the Executive Director of Crime Victim Center. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Can you give me a brief history of your company?
Yeah, so the Crime Victim Center is 47 years old, moving into 48 years, which is amazing. And it was started in '73 by a group of volunteers, actually.
Okay.
Joan Martin actually started it in the back of her station wagon.
Ooh.
A bunch of very empowered females who saw some really bad things happening. It was originally instituted as the Rape Crisis Center of Erie, so people might remember that name. Mm-hmm. And it was primarily for women and children. And she and her crew were huge advocates, and they gathered responsible men and women together to further the cause. Well, at that same time, the whole country was going through kind of a metamorphosis, and they were starting to recognize that women weren't being treated equally. Women were being raped, and there was no laws really protecting them when they were trying to leave their husbands, who were sometimes the breadwinners of the family. Oftentimes, that was the case. And sexual assaults were going unannounced and undetected and uninvestigated. And so lawmakers started coming together, and with all the pushback, they started creating laws to protect first women and children, and to work on sexual assault prevention and rape prevention, and to understand the root causes of those things, and to bring some justice to those things. And so we were in Erie County, we were in the forefront of that whole national movement. And then as established laws became enforceable, groups started to put up money to do this. And so the federal government got involved, and they created something called the Violence Against Women Act. And then they created something called the Victims of Crime Act. And those allowed for funds for organizations like ours to write grants to and receive, very competitive grants, mind you, and then to do that work on the behalf of the federal government right here in Erie County. So as that grew, we were able to further establish our organization and not just serve women and children, but serve men and boys and all of those things that go along with crime, and sexual assault still primary in our world, but we serve members of people who are affected by any type of crime, them, their families, if it's a homicide, their loved ones, and the greater community, to not only make sure that people are protected by what we now have as the Victim Bill of Rights, but also that they know they're entitled to, and we have expanded to do court advocacy. So we were planning and preparing people for their court experience, what that's going to be like, good and bad, because those hearings don't always go the way we want them to, right? And we're right there in the courtroom with them. We also were able to really expand our counseling services to make sure that people affected by any type of crime had a chance to sit down and talk with somebody about that. What does that look like? It's not just about the crime, it's about all the other feelings and emotions that go with that. Some people become totally incapacitated because their car was broken into or their home was broken into. And that's a huge violation. So it's not just about the crime that people have to deal with, it's about all the other emotional effect and all the other things that happen because of that. And then we were able to further expand our services and provide prevention and education services. So now what's going to be 48 years, we've done really amazing things for the good people of Erie County because we had amazing leaders before us to really get these things going together.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Can you speak on that Victims Bill of Rights and the Marsys Law?
Yeah, so these are really exciting things. So way back in the late 90s, all of these good things were happening, and the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency was very involved in promoting this. And so they went to the governor at the time and said, we need to have an enforceable Victims Bill of Rights. And what that means is if you're a victim of a crime that you are participating in, you have certain rights in Pennsylvania, and you have certain privileges afforded to you because of that. And so sexual assault centers around the nation said, okay, we will be the ones to, around Pennsylvania I should say, we will be the ones to enforce that on behalf of the governor's office and on behalf of Pennsylvania. So we networked with the Commission on Crime and Delinquency, and we do that work. And what does that mean? Is it means you have the right to have free counseling. You have the right to have a criminal trial. You have the right to be represented by the DA's office, and those are people we're very much in contact with. In fact, we have people embedded in the DA's office. And you have the right to an advocate who will help you through the court system and be there as your advocate in the courtroom. All amazing rights. Every person who's a victim of crime is entitled to that, and we want to make sure that they're able to go through that. Whether they want to go to trial or not, that's up to them, but all those other rights are still afforded to them. And one of the most basic and fundamental parts of that Bill of Rights is you as a victim during a trial, if you choose to go that path, you have the right to go before your victim and the judge and say what that crime did to you, how it affected you beyond, if it was just a theft or whatever, beyond that, and what you feel should happen to the perpetrator of that crime. And the judge will take that into account when they're making their sentencing. That's very powerful. And that is something that not all people around the world have. So we're very proud of that protection and enforce it and carry it out through Erie County.
You sound like a one-stop shop.
We are, and again, not every county set up are, the way we are. All citizens of the United States have similar benefits and rights that we have. However, in Erie County, our foremothers and our forefathers really put together an amazing comprehensive center so that you're right, it's one-stop shopping. You come to us, we'll sort out what you need. We'll network with other community nonprofits who might also be involved or you might need help from. But we're going to take care of that for you, and we're going to make sure you get all the things you're entitled to and the things that you need. It's really great. And then moving on to Marsys Law, I am so excited about this. Marsys Law makes the Victim Bill of Rights part of a constitutional endowment. And what does that mean? It means we're going to add it to our Pennsylvania Constitution. The way we do that is the House of Representatives and the other powers that be in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg, have voted to make this available, but now the good people of Pennsylvania get to vote on it. And so we're wanting everybody in the general election this fall to vote on the Marsys Law bill to make sure that people continue to have these empowerments, that it becomes part of our Pennsylvania Constitution so that no one can be denied these benefits, and justice will work for everyone.
And that election is in November, in case you're wondering.
That's right.
Correct?
Yep.
Can you speak upon your plans going forward with your company?
We are so excited. We have done so many great things, and like I said, our foremothers and our forefathers have really thought things through, and we're building on their success. So the next thing we're moving towards is we've purchased additional space right in the plaza where we are on 18th Street, and we're going to put in a sexual assault response center. And what that means is people who unfortunately are faced with this type of crime, who have this terrible, horrible thing happen to them, are victims of rape or sexual assault. Instead of reporting to an ER room where there's already chaos, they can come to our private center and receive all of the medical needs that they need and the counseling needs that they have a need for, and in a private setting, in a safe setting, because we'll have law enforcement there, and in a very calm setting, much different than an ER. God bless the good people at the ER. They are amazing people, but they are there to save lives.
Yes.
When our victims walk into an ER, it's a very different story. We're triaged last because we're not on, dying. And it can be very traumatic, and it can also be very horrifying for a victim who has to say what they're there for in a very public setting. So being able to remove that chaos from a ER and let the good people at the ER do the work they need to do, and have our victims come and be in a place where it's much more calm and much more private, we think is going to be better service, lead to better outcomes and follow-up, and it's going to be a game changer for how we see victim services in Erie County.
That sounds fantastic. Can you tell me why you're such a good fit for Erie?
Our center? Oh my goodness, because people need a place to come that's different than therapy. We don't offer therapy, we offer crisis counseling. And when you're in a crisis, when something bad happened to you, you need attention right now. You need people who understand that, who are well seasoned, who can sort out with you what happened, that it's not your fault in any way, that you shouldn't blame yourself or allow other people to blame you, and that there are services available to put you back on your feet and to get you re-engaged in the community as quickly as possible. So it's kind of like putting an eggshell back together, right? It's a very important, tender thing. And we're the only group in Erie County that does that. We're the only certified sexual assault counselors in Erie County. So we are the people to come to do that. We are also the people who provide restitution and victim compensation in the county. So that ties in with if you're going to go for a criminal trial, we want to make sure that you get everything that's due you. So if a victim destroys your house or your car or breaks something or even, takes your glasses or other medical devices, we want to make sure that's not out of your pocket. So restitution and victim compensation are two programs that, by the way, are not government funds. They are provided for by people who do bad things and have to pay back into the system. And sometimes those are large corporations like Halliburton and Enron and BP's oil spill. Part of their fine has to go into this compensation package, right? And we pull down that money to make sure that victims don't have that out-of-pocket expense, so that their doors get fixed, their furniture is replaced, their eyeglasses are replaced, or whatever it might be. They don't have to pay that out of their pocket.
Okay. Can you tell us about your fundraising program and how you're financed? Because a lot of people don't know the things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and I have to say we do. Angie Devine is in our office, and she is our marketing and development person, and she does amazing things with fundraising, and we have to do that. We raise a large chunk of our funds to make things happen, and that's good and bad. It's good because we have more freedom with those dollars, but it's bad because it takes us away from the work we really want to concentrate on. But we do it, and we have a cornhole competition it's a beanbag toss competition in January, and we have a 5K race with the wonderful Sorek family. So it's an Abrams Sorek Crime Victim Center memorial race that we do every April. We have a couple awareness events. We have a conference every year for professionals. But our biggest fundraiser is Moonlight on the Bay, and that happens in the fall. It's always the Friday after Labor Day, and it's at the Perry Monument. And it's just not like any other event in Erie, and it's beautiful, and it's gourmet, wonderful heavy hors d'oeuvres and beverages and dancing on the peninsula there, and it's really exciting. So those are great things, and they get the community engaged, and they do provide much needed dollars, especially for our education and prevention programs. And by the way, all that money stays right here in Erie County. That's who we serve. That's where our money stays. But we write a lot of grants to the federal government and to the local government and state governments. And they're all very competitive grants, and they're all very specific to for the type of work we do.
Okay.
So when I say we get money from the Violence Against Women Act, we write grants towards that fund. When I say we get money for the Victims of Crime Act, we have to write grants to receive that money, and then they dole it out for very specific parts of the program that they want to serve. So we're actually doing that work on behalf of the federal government. The same way it works in the State House. The Commission on Crime and Delinquency puts out grants for specific programs that they want to see. We write for them for competitive grants. If we get them, great. We do the work here in Erie County. So it's good stuff. It really keeps us on our toes. There's all kinds of audits and all kinds of checkups, so you know that your dollars are being spent the best way they can. And quite frankly, we're one of the good nonprofits that stretch those dollars as far as we can. We find every way to match those dollars from local donors. We find every way to get reduced costs for programs we want to have, because we know how important that is, and we know how important that is to the taxpayers. And we are here for every person in Erie County who needs us. So making sure that we have the funds available for the next person who comes in is really important.
All right, and I just want to reiterate before we close out, you definitely said it's for victims, so it's not to a sex, it is for victims.
That's correct. Everybody, men, women, children. We have a great representation in the transgender community. We are in the LGBT community. We're trying very hard to be in the African American community. There's a lot of good things that we want to network and do in all those communities. We are now doing new programs in the international community because Erie's a resettlement, and so that's so exciting. But those are new wonderful venues. They're also new challenges, because we have wonderful people coming from cultures who aren't like ours. Right. And how do we protect them, but also how do we help them know that there's laws that they need to also obey, and it's different than maybe in their countries. So lots of amazing work. But yeah, that's how we work. We serve everybody, so long as you're not participating in the crime.
Correct. Yeah, we don't want you helping them out.
Right.
Well, once again, Paul, I'd like to thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for the information that's been shared with the community, and we're hoping you have great success in the area.
Thank you. Happy to be here, and thanks for helping us get our word out to the community.
Anytime.